darlings, welcome back to Cake Over Keto, your non-diet podcast that stands up against diet culture so you can eat the goddamn cake without anxiety and guilt. I'm Mel Wakeman, registered nutritionist, intuitive eating practitioner, non-diet counsellor and lover of cake. I specialise in disordered eating and recovering from chronic dieting, weight and body image concerns, all through a weight-inclusive lens. Cake Over Keto is a fortnightly slice of food and body truth with dollops of compassion and sprinkles of salvation. I am here, standing in your corner, calling out the diet industry bullshit whilst providing a safe, healing space for those on their way to food and body freedom. There will be food and body neutrality. There may be talk of cake, but there will be no keto recipes. And so that you are aware, I may mention body weight. I will today, calories and the O word. But there will always be context. Just please be mindful if you are triggered by these. So in this episode, Celebrities Don't Owe Us Anything, I want to talk to you about some of the difficult stuff around celebrity transformations, the body stuff. So the likes of Adele, Rebel Wilson, and we're going to touch on Madonna a bit. Are they accidental role models? Or are they responsible leaders? Are they responsible for anything? And what fuel does the media give to this pervasive fire? It's a tricky topic, one that's not easy to navigate without fear of insult or fear of things coming up that we don't want to think about. So I'm going to do my utmost to be respectful. So please try to be respectful of me and my efforts to bring this conversation to the fore. At the end, I'll dip into my pick and mix, which today is about a campaign you need to know about. That's all I can say now. So without further ado, get yourself a cuppa, get yourself somewhere comfy, perhaps the loo if you need a quiet spot, and join me for 20-ish minutes of insight and truth bombs. And while the kettle boils, if you'd like to get in touch, please do. You can find me on Instagram at Cake Over Keto and also on my other business page, which is at Mel_Wakeman_RNUTR. I'm also in my food freedom community on Patreon as Mel Wakeman, that's all one word, or you can email me at mel@wakemannutrition.com. Phew, that's a lot. Anyway, I would love to hear your views on this one. I'll see you in just a second. Right, I've got a question for you. What the hell is a glow up? Have you heard this? It's new to me, I'll be honest. And I'm feeling a bit out of touch because I'm Generation X. I grew up before mobile phones and social media. But actually, our newer and younger generations, so Generation Z, who created this term glow up, are actually doing positive things. They're challenging norms, creating shifts, particularly in the wellness industry, wanting it to be more transparent, more socially responsible and inclusive. And I applaud that. God, we need it. But there's a fundamental problem we still need to address, and it's this. Us humans, particularly women, are still being defined by beauty. So we see the dramatic before and after pictures on our social media channels. Still, the weight loss and body transformations make headlines. This is what I'm coming to in this episode. And actually, as I did this research, I came across this term glow up. So apparently, when someone glows up, it means they become more mature, confident, and attractive. And I was thinking then, are we finally challenging the media's push for thinness and youth? But then that word attractive came up. I have a problem with that. I mean, come on, who defines who is attractive anyway? It all kind of stinks of patriarchy. It's sexualizing women. It's 2022, for God's sake. What's evident in our cultures and societies is many still believe our bodies exist for the most part to be looked at. This is what the media shows us. The pap shots at the beach or the sad before pictures followed by those oh so happy after pictures that are actually just saying only love your body when you love how it looks. So there are a couple of examples that spring to mind here. One is Adele, the other more recent is Rebel Wilson, kind of pitch perfect fame, that's what I remember. And both have gone through a dramatic change in body weight and shape. And three things happened. Both were applauded and congratulated by the masses. And sure, their careers got a little boost on the way for sure. Second, both left leaving some people very disappointed and lost, because the people who had championed their before body, the body positive advocates, now had nothing. And the third thing happened was that both were also absolutely criticised and judged. So who's right here? Well, it's none of them, because all three groups have reduced these women to their body. And God, we know that these women are more than their body. I've come to understand, speaking here as a person with thin white privilege, they don't owe anybody anything. They didn't and don't have a duty to challenge anti-fat bias, weight discrimination, or be a fat activist. They didn't choose to be any of those things. I don't recall statements being made, although perhaps labels were automatically applied. Because being a role model isn't a choice. We are all, to a greater or lesser extent, being observed by others, and thus have the capacity to influence others' choices. Celebrities just have a much wider audience and spotlight for this. So do they have a responsibility that should not be dismissed? It's not an easy question. And just like you and me, they both have body autonomy. They get to make decisions about their own body because it's their own business. And actually, it's their own career. And if those two things cross over, that's for them to decide. For Adele and Rebel, if they feel changing their body size makes them more marketable, as well as happier, potentially, that's their prerogative. I got a sense from some of the interviews Rebel did, this was the case. I remember when Adele first revealed her initial weight loss. She hadn't shared any of those early parts of her journey back in, 2019? The world was genuinely shocked. And there was a sense of, from the media, they were indignant because they didn't know, which I always found quite amusing. But everyone tried to guess what her secret was. And that's not helpful. It really isn't. Because none of us are her and she's not us. And it just reinforces the mistruth that you aren't good enough as you are now, that we should always strive for better. You too can just be like Adele. And at the deepest level, some of her fans want to be her. That's why that need to know can be so intense. And the research shows us that, some fans will form very strong connections with their idols. They feel like they've got this special relationship known as celebrity worship. And there's a connection there between that behaviour and a negative body image. When I was following Adele and the Rebel headlines, and I say follow loosely, I didn't choose to follow it at all. It was shoved in front of my face, to be honest. But there was a part of me that recognised the older me, the one who would have wanted to have known what their secret was. How did they shrink their body? Look how happy they are. Rewind 20 years and that would have been me. Because I was unhappy and I believed my body was to blame. When we are dissatisfied with our body, and as I was doing, punishing it and trying to beat it into submission, the outcome is never a good one. Body image is how you see yourself when you look in the mirror, but it's also how you picture yourself in your mind. It includes your thoughts, perceptions, and attitudes about your physical appearance. And my self-perception was not an accurate depiction of who I really was. I believed I saw something very different from the reality. I didn't like the physical experience of being in my own body. I wanted out. So an important message here is that no, you can't improve your body image by changing your body. Body image goes deeper than that. You have to work on your head, not your body. Persistent negative thoughts and feelings about your body contribute to a negative body image. So this is when levels of body dissatisfaction are raised. It's an internal, emotional and cognitive process, but absolutely it's influenced by external factors, such as the pressures to meet certain appearance criteria or ideals that we often get from social media. And it's body dissatisfaction that can drive people to engage in unhealthy weight control behaviours like I did. We know that higher body dissatisfaction is associated with psychological distress, low self-esteem, poorer quality of life. It increases the risk of developing body dysmorphic disorder, BDD, disordered eating, and ultimately increases the risk of developing an eating disorder. And this is not just a young person's problem. I see this in my work. Poor body image, disordered eating, and eating disorders can and do affect anyone. There's no gender divide, no class, race, or age divide. There's a really interesting report that was published by the Women Inequalities Committee here in the UK, and they did a survey into body image in 2020, and it came out last March 2021. I've put the link in the show notes if you're interested to read the whole thing. And they reported 61% of adults and 66% of children feel negative or very negative about their body image most of the time. Reasons included influences by diet culture, being bombarded with photoshopped and edited images. I'll come back to this. Content that sexualizes women, is ageist, and puts pressure on new mums to get their pre-baby body back. All ages, adults and children, reported feeling pressured to make changes to their body and appearance because of persistent material that encouraged a need for their body to look a certain way. So we're talking digital media here primarily. It's so pervasive and it's causing harm. It's understood girls view more invasive, more harmful adverts on social media because the adverts are more exploitative, because they target based on previous search history and on stereotypical ideals or ideas of what young women might be interested in. So hence the beauty and the weight loss products show up. We know that women who follow health food or fitness accounts on Instagram show higher levels of disordered eating like orthorexia. So no, it's not just a matter of curating your feed towards diet culture free and body positive content. It's much harder to avoid this stuff. And yes, we now have safeguarding and advertising policies for social media companies, but there's still this massive gap between what the policies are offering and the real life experience for the user. And I'm going to come back on to this in terms of what needs to change on social media, my pick and mix coming up at the end. But before I do, I want to talk about Madonna's flawless filters. Have you seen these? Is it just me that finds them a bit icky? If you've missed this and you're thinking, don't worry, you're clearly living your life. But what happened was that Madonna shared pictures of herself very recently using digital filters that took her back to 1984. Like she looked, it was kind of crazy, quite surreal. And I'll be honest, I'm really conflicted with this because there's a big part of me that says, well, she can do what she wants. It's her body, it's her business. But the digital Madonna is not the real Madonna. And even though we know this, it doesn't negate the effect. Because we now have selfie dysmorphia, where people are seeking surgery to look more like they do in their own edited photos, as well as celebrities on social media. These filters are they're a bit messed up. And this is where things are getting a bit fucked up too. You know, we've got these tools at our fingertips that are creating an absolute shit show, and we're just left to deal with that? Whose responsibility is it? The Centre for Appearance Research, they're based at University of the West of England in Bristol. State adverts and campaigns can have a negative impact if they promote unrealistic appearance ideals, contribute to diet culture, and perpetuate the objectification of women. Absolutely. So come on, Madonna, what's wrong with the real Madonna? Can we stop perpetuating the idea that getting old, wrinkly and saggy bits is the worst thing that can happen to a human? And I find her message messy. She's saying live your life. She's challenging the norms and pushing conventions, and I like that. But is appearance key to that too? But then hey, she got slated for getting older, and now she gets slated for her pictures making her look too young. This is a prime example of you can't do right for doing wrong. So I'd love to know what you think here. Do celebrities and influencers have a responsibility to role model, even when they didn't voluntarily step into that position? If it's not all of their responsibility, then whose is it? Answers on a postcard. I will be sharing my contact details at the end. Hold on a minute, because it's pick and mix in just a mo. Rightio, let's open up the pick and mix. This time it's about a campaign set up by a lady called Suzanne Samarkar to amend social media law so that content that has been digitally edited or filtered is labelled as such in the UK. So she tells me that policies already exist in France, Norway and Israel. So I am totally with Suzanne. Can we have one here, please? So a major driver of negative body image, particularly with, but not exclusively for young people, is the prevalence of manipulated photos in advertising and across social media. So this means using digital technology in most cases to, quote unquote, improve appearance. So as I was just touching on earlier, at the touch of a button, we can completely alter how we look. We can whiten our teeth, alter our bone structure, remove blemishes, lines, cellulite, you name it. We can become unrecognisable. And just let me say, I'm not saying all social media is terrible or that social media is to blame for all of this stuff that I've talked about today, but we cannot ignore the harmful impact that it has any longer. So yes, social media platforms are doing a little bit better, but they need to do more to protect their users from body image harm. Suzanne's Honest About Editing campaign is asking for more transparency in the use of digitally edited content. So the use of, Photoshop, filters, as I was talking about with Madonna, Facetune. I mean, there's loads of apps these days. And if you think about it, even like the filters that you get on Zoom, there's loads of stuff that's available. But we need to know that what we are seeing is real or not. And if it's being used for advertising purposes. And interestingly, younger audiences are absolutely asking for this. Suzanne shared the Royal Society for Public Health report on social media and young people's mental health and well-being. And I've put this in the show notes too. It's a really interesting read. So if you're with me today and you like the idea of this campaign, please go and find it and sign it. Please share Suzanne's campaign. The easiest way to do this is click the link in the show notes. It will take you straight there. And if you're listening to this and thinking you can help amplify Suzanne's voice, please do get in touch. Every single signature is a step closer to change. So that's it from me for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've liked what you've heard, please do subscribe so you don't miss what's coming up next in my next episode. This is about MyFitnessPal. It's not your pal. Is it taking up headspace? Is it time to delete it? That's what's coming up next. If you'd like to carry on the conversation, please email me at mel@wakemannutrition.com or come find me on Instagram at Over Keto or Mel_Wakeman_RNUTR. Find me in the Food Freedom community on Patreon or come and find me on LinkedIn. I'm kind of everywhere. So thanks again for listening. Take care of yourselves and I will see you next time. Bye.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.